I wasn't really sure where I am. I couldn't talk. My core body temperature was about 29 to 30 degrees, and that's with a rectal thermometer, which means that it's a true core body temperature.
Yeah.
That's, usually, always when people ask about this, I said, well, if you've got a child, when it goes down to 35 degrees, you rush into hospital, okay? With a doubt at 32 degrees, you have to be hospitalized. So we finished a swim at below that, at 30 degrees, which is a new territory. The medical doctors haven't really done huge research about people swimming in the water, coming out of that. As far as they're concerned, like Professor Lynne Cox, he tells me all the time, you should be dead. Okay, that's what he said. As far as I know as a professor, you're dead. Okay, but this fascinates me because more and more people do that, and on the contrary, we're pushing the envelope. So I think like anything else, there must be something there that we can probably do much more than we think we can, but we're probably scared. That fascinates me, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and so you finished Lake Zürich, and now you have Antarctica under your belt, and you decide to expand, and you go to Alaska, and you go to Alcatraz in San Francisco, and you're very much enjoying yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about your impressions of the Alaska swims that you did in San Francisco Bay?
The Alaska swim, we've been told the Alaska swim was actually great fun. I think we anticipated it to be much harder than we expected. Just remember that we swim in 11, 12 degrees on a regular basis. And also something that I started since Antarctica, when I trained for Antarctica, I decided to start swimming without a swimming cap, which has made quite a lot of difference. If you a swimmer who knows diving into colder water without a swimming cap, sometimes in 10 degrees take us about 5 to 7 minutes before you can completely submerge your head and swim non-stop. And it's a very painful experience, but what it does, it kind of assimilates much tougher conditions, and the brain gets trained to deal with tough conditions. So when you dive into much colder water with a cap, you deal with it better. So we swim when we do our swim here. We swim without a cap now. That's something we started swimming years ago, and quite a few all the guys that go to Patagonia, Alaska, also don't swim with a cap anymore. So we train to swim without a cap. We thought we were going to do about 13, 14 kilometers with current and waves, about 10 degrees, and it ended up being around 14 degrees. It was still 13 and a half kilometers. But the sea was quite comfortable with a little bit of chop. We're used to that. Wasn't really any current. It's a beautiful place, Alaska and Pinot swim. I recommend to everyone. It's a mind-blowing place to swim. You swim around an island. We actually swam without caps, so 5 of us did that swim in Alaska without swimming cap deliberately.
Wow.
To show off probably how strong we are. So we had to dive in with the cap, and then we took the cap off and put it in our swimming costume and did the whole 14 kilometers without a cap. It was cold, but I think mentally we prepared ourselves. We were petrified of the Alaska swim. So yeah, so most of us won the age category. I also won my age category, but there was only one guy in the age category, me. Was the oldest man in the old swim. There was only 14 people without wetsuits, and 7 of them were South African. So it was a great swim. It's a great experience. It's not an easy swim, but it's.
Yeah.
Then we went to San Francisco and we did Alcatraz, and again, Alcatraz it's a fun swim. Other than, as long as you get the tide right, it was really a fun swim. It's only half an hour. Water temperature is about 14 degrees. You know, when you train for ice water to do 30 minutes in 14 degrees, it's a fun swim rather than a hard swim. It was great.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. And you, all of these swims.
I'd like to do it at night.
Yeah. And all of these swims, you really, it seems to me, you train your mind. It's one thing about your body, but you really are mentally tough. Can you address that fact, and how mentally tough do you need to be?
Yeah, that's Stephen. That's a very, for me, that's a very interesting territory, because it's not something that we can measure with a stopwatch and body fat and stroke rate and etc. You know, we actually have no way, and we don't really look at these things in a more scientific way. I'm also I'm not as young as I used to be. You know, I'm 53 now, and as your physical body gets older, it's very tough to carry on swimming faster and longer distances. It's a bit of an uphill battle. But what I did find that the mind doesn't age in that sense. The mind actually gets stronger, and you've got younger swimmers that don't have that strong mind, and they give up. In tough challenges, rough seas, they give up before we do. Okay, so there's some competitive advantage to age and wisdom and experience. I definitely, I'm a huge believer in the power of the mind. I think if one of the greatest examples that Professor Cox actually showed us was latest Olympic Games where the US team won 4x100 relay.
Yes.
And I can't remember the name of the third swimmer. Broke his own world record by miles to win, to get to win that. And when you watch the video, he 2 weeks until that day he swam, and I can't remember what was his speed. On that race, he did his 50 meter about 1.5 to 2 seconds faster, and 2 weeks later in a world champ, he went back to swim his usual time. So for me, something happened to his mind that made him break some sort of a barrier to swim 1.5 seconds faster, because in the usual 100 meter or 50 meter swim, his mind says, well, that's my speed. I can improve it, but I can't break it in a big way, so I'm just incrementally improve it. And some event shook him out of that mental state, pushed him to a completely new territory. And the same thing with this ice swim. I've seen really good swimmers, give up in tears in the waves, the chop and it comes, and some people that, you just carry on, you know.
Yeah.
And, so I'm fascinated. One of the things that I do...
You know, I was just going to ask you to explain about the International Ice Swimming Association, since you brought up the word ice. So,
okay, I'll talk about it in a second. I think you asked me. Sorry, I'll have to go in 7 minutes,
okay.
if you don't mind. 3:30.
Okay.
One of the things that I do to train the mind is make some rules for myself. Okay, because it's all mental. Rules about when I decide to commit myself into the water, I count and I say I can stand for an hour, but the minute I start counting 1, 2, 3, I dive in at 3. So it kind of forces me to commit, you know, that I can stand there, but then I said, okay, Ram, I've got to get in, I've got to do this. I say 1, 2, and I have to dive in at 3 and start swimming. Okay, it doesn't matter the condition. We swim in every condition. We swim all year round. We swim every weekend. We swim, we've got a rule that we swim in any condition. Where there's 40 knots wind or 3-meter waves. Sometimes you can't really swim, but you still get into the water, try to get behind the breakers and spend half an hour in the water. So for me, that's kind of training of the mind. Many times we don't really train. We don't swim 2 or 3 kilometers non-stop at the speed because it's almost impossible. But we swim. If there's kelp, we'll go through the kelp, and if there are rocks, we'll go around the rocks. So mentally, you kind of train yourself to commit yourself 100% to the conditions. Okay, obviously. But maybe 2 words on ice swimming. I don't know how many people actually properly swim in ice water. I know Lynne done swims. I know Louis done. Although he usually swims a kilometer, I think he possibly done a mile at ice water. And I know some other people, Rachel and some other people done that. But I decided, doing a lot of research, that there isn't really anyone there. There are some mad people who dive into ice, but most people spend a few minutes in the ice and come up. So the idea of the Ice Swimming Association, National Ice Swimming Association, I just found, said, let's start this association. In order to qualify, it's very simple. You need to swim at least a mile at 5 degrees or less Celsius, unaided with one normal silicone cap, normal speedo, and goggles. No aids, no suits, not even an LZR or anything like that. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
And I decided. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
And then I tested some people's curiosity, and I was amazed that quite a few people want to do the challenge. So I got 6 people, or another 5 people. It's actually another 4 that we're going together to Patagonia, and Theo Yach, which of course you know, he's done about 56 Robben Island crossing. And I said, let's do a mile swim at about sub 5 degrees, and then I got about another 20 people to do 600-meter swim, which is kind of endurance swim. And it's amazing, you know. It was very hard for few people, but people came back to me and said, I want, because when you do the mile swim, you become a member in the Ice Swimming Association. You get a certificate, you get a red jacket, which is just a very nice red jacket that is branding that kind of. And so many people come to me and say, I have to have this jacket next to it.
Wow.
So any price. So it will be interesting when we do the swim February next year in Lake Tahoe. It will be interesting to see how many people are gonna put their name down for a mile swim at 340. How many of you reckon gonna come and swim? Want to do that?
Yeah, I think we'll be at least 30 people to do that ice swim, 1 mile in Lake Tahoe, California.